Welcome to Shortcuts to Mastery. I'm your host, Maria Henning, and in my universe, life is for growth, and time is for bending. So hop in, my friend, buckle up, and let's get into it. Hello, my friend. Welcome back to another episode of Shortcuts to Mastery. If this is your first time hanging out with me, then hello. It is excellent to meet you. I'm Maria. I'm so glad you found your way here, and I'm really excited to bring you this conversation with Eric Roberts. This year is my digital nomad / community year, and I currently just got back from Colombia to visit 3 of my friends who are also living the digital nomad dream, which is really full circle because in this conversation with Eric, we talk a lot about community and how important it is not just for life and thriving as a human, but also business. I mean, it's literally the foundation of online businesses like ours. And if you don't know him yet, Eric is an expert in gene keys and human design like myself, but he also works with many other modalities, including astrology, astrocartography, and numerology in his work as an alignment coach. This conversation was a total blast, and specifically it was super fun to me because Eric and I share a lot of similarities in our astral charts, including the same type and profile and very similar channels in human design. We share the same vocation and attraction spheres in the gene keys, and we have many other random mirrors and flips here and there, which was super fun. And which was also the genesis of this conversation. When we discovered that we were both 2-5 profiles in human design, which is not super common, I immediately was like, hey, we need to chat about this on the pod, and here we are. So in this episode, we get really deep into that specifically. We talk about the 2-5 profile a lot. So challenges, impacts, the expectations and projections, setting energetic boundaries, particularly as a 5th line too. We also explore one of my favorite topics, which is the motivation of the 2-5 and all transitional profiles, which is Innocence motivation. We talk about a lot of the things that we share. So gate 20, a lot of integration circuitry, things like that. And I also got to really ask him about his transition to going public about his work on social media versus he was getting clients before having an online presence, which for me is super fun as someone who teaches readers to grow their businesses. And I get told often by clients that they are not wanting to show up on social media and how can they just have a business without social media. So asking Eric about his pre-social media business was really special. And one of my favorite parts of this episode is I get to ask him the new questions that I'm going to ask every guest, and he had such fun answers. You're going to love this conversation. I am super excited to give you an inside peek into 2-34-20, 2-5 mini gens, just like nerding out and vibing. So enjoy it, have so much fun, and I'll catch you at the end. Hi, friends. I'm so excited. I have Eric Roberts on the podcast today, which sort of a conversation that to me feels like a long time coming. I'm really excited about this. Eric is an alignment coach. He also uses human design, gene keys, and astrology, but also includes a lot of other, modalities in his work, like astrocartography, numerology. I know you do a lot of other modality things as well. And this conversation came about because he and I don't know exactly how you and I became mutuals on Instagram, but we somehow became mutuals on Instagram. And I posted about, being a 2-5 MG. And he replied saying he was also a 2-5 MG. And how does it show up for me? And I was like, let's just hop on my podcast and have a conversation.
Get on the pod.
So,
I think there was just a resonance. I think we found each other and we're circling each other. And I think there clearly was such a resonance. And as we've come to find, as we've been like getting ready for the podcast, we do have a lot of similarities in our overall design and our blueprint. So it's resonance, it's energy, it's frequency, it's vibration, it's all of these things, So
we love it. Yes.
We love it.
No, I'm excited to chat about it.
Yeah, thank you for that beautiful intro. I'm so happy to be here. I love chatting with other people who are doing really incredible things, and I'm super excited about it. Yeah.
Oh, it's the best. My favorite is like just nerding out about this stuff with other people, and then the fact that we can record it and include other people in the conversation, I think is just a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm so happy you're here. I know that you grew up on the East Coast and you grew up as sort of this like curious kid, kind of asking your parents maddening questions, and we're a reader and a collector of things, which I heard you talk about this on Jordan's podcast, The Balance Blonde, and as you were saying this, I felt like we really kind of share a similar upbringing in that sense. So as a big reader and a question asker growing up, I'm curious, is there a particular book that sticks out to you? That's one question. And is there a particular question that you always ask that sticks out to you from your childhood?
Ooh, I love questions, by the way. So I love a good question. And by the way, we haven't chatted about this yet because I've just briefly looked into your own astrology and your blueprint. I'm sure you're aware, but you're a Gemini South node and you're a Sagittarius North
Yes.
node. So you are coming
Yes.
from
We have
many,
it
many
flipped.
previous, yes, you're coming from many, many previous lifetimes and early in this lifetime of being that Gemini curious question asker. And I'm a Gemini North node. So we already share this, this very strong connection here.
Yes. Love
So
it.
love it. That's such a good question. You know what's interesting? I oh my god, there's so many books that I read when I was a kid. Um, I would say, you know what's so funny? I think I started with The Power of Now. That was one of my first books, the Eckhart
Wow.
Tolle. Yeah.
Mm.
And then I was also some of those other things that were really popular at the time, like The Secret. I was like, what's this about? What is this manifestation stuff? What is this stuff about energy? And The Power of Now was super fascinating to me because honestly, I think I saw him on the Oprah show or something, and I was like, who is this like incredibly fascinating man who speaks like a sage? And I was like, I need to know more about this. So that those two definitely stick out for me, at least from when I was younger.
How
Um,
old were you when you read those books? Because those
I
aren't
was
typically books I hear that people were young when they read them.
I was young when I started my journey. I mean, I've
Mm.
always, again, like you've said, I've always been curious. I've always been a reader, like from
Hmm.
very, very young. One of my favorite activities, my favorite things to do was read. And I was a voracious
Yeah.
reader. And so I think it just naturally led into these things. I also was very into like science fiction and adventure. And so it also sort of naturally led me into wanting to understand the world and all of these ancient philosophies. I'm a Sagittarius South Node, so that also
Yeah.
makes sense. Like ancient philosophies, religions, all of these things. Like I was just inherently naturally drawn to it. So yeah, I think when I
Love it.
really started going into the like spirituality philosophy, I was probably around anywhere from like 13, 14, 15 or so.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah,
Again, this is like I'm having this experience of like, do we have the same fucking life? Because like that was also my
probably.
experience. Like
Yeah.
at 14, I was like, oh, fuck the Catholic Church, and like, nope, I don't believe in that. And I like became vegetarian that year and like started reading like
Hmm.
astronomy and astrology books. So you're very young. You've always been a reader. I have a question. Were you
Yeah,
always sort of
please.
like the youngest in the room with like certain things? Has that been your experience as well?
That's a good question. Honestly, I've probably been. My experience was more that I was almost like the oldest in scenarios. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, and I was usually like, I always felt a little bit older and a little bit more like, um, I guess mature is the way. And part of that is that I was actually like put into school a little bit later. Like I was one of the older ones that was put into school, so I always felt a little bit
Mm,
like that. And also just
sure.
inherently the things that I was interested in, like most kids my age were not interested in all of these things. So yes, that also made me feel older. But I do get what you're saying, because I think just the things that I was curious about typically were the realm of like adults. And so yes, I probably was in terms of those scenarios like on the younger side of things. But how did that play out for you? I'm curious.
Yeah, well, so again, I'm having this experience of like we're either the same or we're like total flipped opposites,
Yeah,
like in our
yeah.
chart and now sort of in our experience. But I asked that because, as like a two, right, we sort of like naturally pick things up and the podcast episode that is like coming out before this one is I share some raw audio of my family talking about me on my 30th birthday a few weeks ago.
Mm,
And my mom shares about also how I love to read and how I taught myself to read. Like I just learned to read
mm,
on my own.
yeah.
And so anyway, all that to say, what that then led me to, again, because I started my journey so young, I was the youngest in rooms that were about this kind of stuff. So like I
Mm,
did my yoga teacher's first teacher training 10 years ago and I was 20 and everyone else was like 35 and above.
yeah,
And then I
yeah,
started getting into like sort of personal development seminars and I was always like frequently the youngest person
yeah.
in those rooms and coaching people who were in their 60s, like just very interesting
Yes.
experiences. So I was curious how that's how it played out for me. Yeah. So I was
Well,
curious about if that was the same for you.
I love that question, and yes, I highly relate to that. I think this also would first of all, I think this relates to also just inherently our North Node and our South Node. I think this relates to our Capricorn energy that we have because that does typically tend to read as like
Mm,
elder
yeah.
sort of energy,
Yeah.
Saturnian
Old soul.
energy, old soul energy. But I do also think this relates to the 2-5. People see us as someone that can like provide solutions and answers and help, and so I know I always felt from a young age, kind of like you were saying, I always felt that like I was potentially like giving advice or counseling to
Yeah.
my peers or even people that were older than me. And I always like was like, this is interesting. This is strange, like kind of strange, you know? So I think it relates to that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we just jump into the 2-5 experience, because that's
Sure.
sort of how we connected about
Yeah.
this. And to your point, like I also sort of found it strange. Like it was, what was strange about it to me was that I felt comfortable doing it. But it was like,
Hmm.
but from an out like from an authentic perspective, I was like, yeah, like no, I got this. Like I can coach this person. But from like
Hmm.
an outsider's perspective, who's just like looking in on a personal development seminar, it's like it is sort of weird that this 55-year-old man is asking me, a 21-year-old, what to do or whatever, and finding quite a lot of value in my in
Yeah.
my reflections or in my whatever. So
Yeah.
you're a 2-5, I'm a 2-5. I have some
Hmm.
questions about how this shows up for you, but starting with, you initially asked me about the projection field experience, so I just want to hear from
Yes.
you, like your sort of like your definition of it, and also maybe from your words to someone who doesn't know the 2-5
Hmm.
and what the projection field means. How would you describe it? Show up,
For
I know
sure.
you know
And
all the things, so tell us.
yeah, and just also a note on all of this, as you know, and I'm sure everybody listening knows, like this all can play out in such an infinite spectrum of ways, and like we're probably not even going to be able to cover all the ways that this technically plays out. Um,
For sure,
but
for sure.
you know, the 2 and the 5 are both profile numbers that do attract a projection field. So it's attracting energy, it's attracting attention. The 2 being the natural, the hermit, and the 5 being the heretic. The 2, the 2 people see us as someone that are like people that are naturally talented, naturally gifted. We have this sort of radiating inherent intelligence about us. And then the 5, it's like also this sort of projection field of like, oh, I think you can help me, or I think you can serve me in some way, or there's some information that you have that's going to be a
Yeah.
catalyst for me in my journey. When I first learned about it, it was like truly like time. It was like one of those like time stop moments. It was like, and I
Mm.
was like, oh my God. Like, oh, every interaction in my life now makes sense. Like, there's context around it. Relationships that I had with my friends, like we just mentioned, like, why am I taking on this, like, mentor role or this counseling role or this coaching role? And, even
Always.
relationship with family and with, again, like you said, strangers, older people. And then also I really found it also interesting in work scenarios because, like we were talking about earlier, when I was younger, I worked in, more traditional roles, like corporate roles. I also, when I was young, worked in restaurants and hospitality, and also very much strongly experienced like that projection field. And for me, it was like, a lot of it was like, how it's like they almost like they were expecting something of me or they wanted something from
Mm,
me, and that was a
mm,
very it's very like, before you really understand these concepts, it's a lot of it can feel like a lot of pressure, it could feel like a lot of expectations, with that type
yeah.
of projection. So I don't know, have you experienced that at all? Like, what's your take with that?
Yeah, 100%. I'll just share an experience, and then I'll share my like interpretation of the 2-5.
Yeah.
One of the first things, I love that you call it like a time stop moment. There's like a
Hmm.
before and like an after that
Oh,
experience.
100%.
Um Yeah, there were a couple things with the 2-5 that, like, really were fascinating to me. One of them was sort of like the unconscious 5 is like, people, to your point, like, see you as someone that can help them. It's
Hmm.
the projection of the savior, and that for me was like,
Hmm.
"Oop, yep, I definitely am, like, a savior type of individual a lot of the time."
Yes.
And the ways that my first teacher described it, she sort of, I don't know if this was her own interpretation of her or what, I'm not sure, but her words that she used
Hmm.
really resonated with me, which were like, people will put you in leadership positions before you're not ready. And
Hmm.
that's again my experience of sort of like being the youngest. Like
Yeah.
I didn't really ever, it's again funny, we have this sort of like mirror experience. You went into like, finance in New York and had sort of more traditional corporate roles.
Yeah.
In my brief 4 years of not being a business owner yet, between college
Hmm.
and being an entrepreneur, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't
Hmm.
really have too many corporate experiences, but the most corporate that I had was I worked at a startup, a software startup,
Mm.
and I was the third hire on it was my I then was the third hire again for another company, but
Yeah.
I was the third hire, and by like 8 months in, they had hired like 6 other people, all who were much older than me and much more experienced than me, but I was the product manager
Yeah.
of the
Exactly.
product.
Yeah.
And I was like, "I don't fucking know anything about product management. I will learn though. I love it." And it helped me
Uh-huh.
so much with what I do now, but that was like a real, sort of experience for me. And for me, like I know you're more of like an astrology lover from what I've heard you describe.
Hmm.
That's the one that's made the most difference to you. And I'm curious to see
Yes.
if that's still true. Okay, cool. Still true.
Yes.
For me,
Still
I'm like a
true.
Gene Keys, like, fucking voracious, obsessed person. So
Oh, I
yeah, like,
absolutely love all of them, and we should talk about all of this more. But for me, my base was astrology, and then I built on top
mm,
of astrology with all of these other ones. But so I would say
yeah.
astrology is probably like my core one. So yeah,
Sure, sure. It's where you
yeah,
started. Yeah,
yeah.
which makes sense. But from the Gene Keys perspective, sort of, I want to ask you about this too. It's like the challenge of the two in this is so again, I'm just like, what the fuck is this weird situation with our profiles? But the
Hmm.
challenge of the two, the evolution of the two is relationships. And we both are
Yeah.
44 vocations. So the
Hmm.
core wound being like karmic relationships. So it's funny because we're
Hmm.
like, we're natural and like and I liked how you said like people are expecting things from me, and that is a challenge in relationships.
Hmm.
And then the five is sort of like this impact radiance. Like we get our health and our gifts come alive as we like impact others. So it's like we desire to impact people, but
Hmm.
again, the question's always wherever in the Gene Keys you see this with a two or a five, especially with the two, it's like, what do you want to be recognized for? Like ask
Hmm.
yourself that question. It sort of comes from within. What do I want to be seen as? And
Yeah.
then with the five, it's always like have clear boundaries on what you can actually help people with so people don't project
Oof.
onto you how you want to. Yeah, exactly. So that I'm curious, like how what's your experience of the Gene Keys experience of this stuff, like the relationships challenge and the impact challenge?
Oh my God, there's so much to go into there.
I know, right?
I've had to become very, very, very wise about relational dynamics, in terms of like what is a balanced relationship and what is an equal relationship, what I'm giving and also what I'm receiving. Because yeah, no, I've had to become very, very wise about relational dynamics and what a balanced relationship is. I think with the 2-5, there can be a really, really strong tendency to overgive and overserve, which can lead to depletion and to exhaustion. So that absolutely has been one of my. Do you relate to that? Yeah,
Yeah, I'm like
I
my
see you
whole
nodding.
body is
Yeah.
nodding. Like my
Oh
entire
yeah.
body is just like rocking back and forth from like the resonance of it. And like to your point of what you were describing earlier, it's like I'm always in sort of this like coaching role with my
Mm-hmm.
friends, like, and I
Mm-hmm.
it's one of the reasons that I left Boston. It's not because I wanted to leave Boston, but because I wanted to find people who could sort of be that for me, because
Yes.
I'm that person. But at the same time, it's really difficult for me to receive that support, maybe like all the
For
Capricorn
sure.
nonsense.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but, like, that's always sort of my experience, and it is one of, our gifts, right? And especially as a 44,
100%.
I wanna talk about the 44 too with you in a
Hmm.
second, but
Yeah.
one of the ways that I've sort of translated that transmission of teamwork, which I sort of always say is the most boring word of the Gene Keys, like, come the
Hmm.
fuck on, there's so many
Yeah.
cool words in the Gene
Come
Keys,
on,
it's like
Richard Rudd.
teamwork.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro,
That's
transmit a
so
different
funny.
word.
Yeah.
But I use the word cheerleader a lot to describe the
Mm,
44. It's like, "I'm
I
just such a
love
big
that.
cheerleader, and, like, I really support you," and
Ugh.
it right? Like, isn't
That
that what you
couldn't,
get? I'm
that's
sure
like,
you get that reflect
that's exactly what I do. I mean, that's exactly
right.
what I do. And I think that also plays into a
Yeah.
couple other things in my own design with my,
Yeah.
identity center and all of these things. Like
Mhm.
I want people to know that they are here for a reason. I want people to know that they have the power to live a life that feels good, that feels aligned, that feels joyful, that feels empowered. Like, yes, like ultimate cheerleader vibes. Like
Yes.
I get so passionate and energized by that. So yes, that's spot on in the way that you're describing that.
Oh,
100%.
good. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
glad because you're a 44 vocation, so I'm glad it, like, lands. Yeah, it's like that's sort of the thing that I've always, got like, I've always just loved is to be like, "Oh my god, I can lift you up." But to your point, like, it can
Mhm.
be so overgiving, and sort of depleting and like, "Ugh, why doesn't anyone check up on me? Like, I want to be there."
Yes. Yes, but
That
are we asking
victimizing
for
vibe.
it? But are we
Yeah.
asking for it?
Yeah.
Are we opening ourselves up to it? So,
Yes. Yeah.
um, that's been honestly one of my core lessons in this lifetime. I don't know if you relate to that
Mm,
as well, but is learning about receiving and proper energetic dynamics and relational dynamics. And yeah, I mean, my tendency is to want to give, to want to help, to want to be of
yeah.
service, to want to solve problems. But a couple things about that, like we have to learn how to receive, because that will also then fill our cup and help us feel seen and loved and heard and all of those things. The other thing, and you said this really beautiful keyword, boundaries. Boundaries are so important, not only for everybody, but I think also for people that really contain this kind of energetic signature as well.
Yeah.
What's been your experience with sort of setting energetic relational work balance? You're like work in progress, my friend. I mean, we all are, Yeah.
People really don't like it a lot of the time, and I'm okay
Mhm.
with that. I don't really give a fuck because like I'm a Scorpio stellium and Aquarius rising and Saturn, and like it's just like, okay,
Yes, I
fuck
love
you,
that. I love
douchebag.
that.
Like I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm gonna set this boundary with you. But I
Yeah.
have learned to be more sort of like generous and forgiving. And again, something that I noticed about
Hmm.
our chart differences, like the lines that I have the most of are line fives, and for you the lines you have the most of are line twos. So we sort of
Hmm.
are like, because we might be two fives with just like 1 million line fours, but it's like, no, you and I really do exist in this like projection field situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, my challenge has been with the line five because that's the line I
Hmm.
have the most of. That's I just associate so intensely with the line five, and like,
Hmm.
especially like having a 51.5 purpose, that's Ra's conscious
Hmm.
sun. And so like I
Yeah.
really like take on that sort of like five line, like that's who I'm here to be. And I'm curious how you experience your
Hmm.
five purpose of voice, like frequency. That's a huge reason why I started the podcast, is people need to hear my voice. But
Yeah.
yeah, for me, the challenge in the boundaries has been, no, I can't save you, even though I could. It's like I'm gonna choose not to, even though I
Yeah.
totally fucking could figure it out. Like easily I
For
could.
sure.
But
Yeah.
no. And so this happens a lot when I have like a next like, goal in my business. I'm like, oh, I wanna, have
Hmm.
this many people in an offer, or I wanna do this. And then I get these random invitations that are like, ooh, could you do that? And I'm like, I guess. And then I do it and I'm like, why the fuck did I do that? Like I
Yes.
did a great job and I delivered, but I'm like, what the fuck? That was such a like not good use of my time. Or
Totally.
yeah, with friends when they like need something and they're like going
Hmm.
through something, I have this like very arrogant sort of, line to Capricorn, whatever, of being like, yeah, no one else could offer you the advice that I could. So sure, why don't I take out an hour of my time to like
Yeah.
support you, because
Yeah.
no one else is there for you in the way that I could be there for you. And it's very arrogant, but I get that reflection a lot. So
For
yeah. How
sure,
about for
and
you?
I totally understand that, and I totally get that, and I relate to that. But I think also at the same time, I have had to become so intentional about my energetic maintenance and boundaries, my time, the stuff that I'm working on, because I can very, very easily get depleted energetically, physically, emotionally, with too much overgiving and with not enough boundaries and structure around my time. And then it's not serving anybody. Do you know what I mean? It's not serving
Yeah.
me. And then it's not even, I'm not able to even show up in
Yeah.
my full energy and capacity if I'm so depleted. And so
Yeah.
that just, even learning that and understanding sort of the energetic and boundaries and maintenance that need to have, even with the 2-5 and all of this, has been just
Mm.
game changing, life changing.
I love that. To bring it like
Yeah.
really into the nitty-gritty, which is sort of what you and I love as like earthly
Yeah.
people. I'd love to hear an example of maybe like an experience that woke you up to that, and then maybe like a
Hmm.
practice that you do to sort of keep that energetic hygiene or like
Mm.
boundaries, if
Yeah,
something comes up for
for
those.
sure. I would say for me, it's constant. It's truly a daily energetic maintenance thing. You have more of that, like Scorpio. You have a little bit more Capricorn than me. You have that Aquarian, which is like very easy to be like, no, f you. Like I'm good. I have a lot of Virgo and a lot of Libra, which really is like wants to
Oh,
people
yeah.
please and wants to serve and wants to like really help. And so it's,
Mm,
I'd say earlier on in my life, it was really difficult for me to say no or to not help.
mm,
And it made me feel bad to not help. And so I had to like work through that whole part of it as well. So
mm.
I think for me, it's daily energetic maintenance and boundaries. For me, it's also, I would say, Gene Key 5 in my incarnation cross, and that like rhythms and daily life. So setting
Mm,
a routine schedule for myself has been
mm,
key.
mm,
I really try and wake up at the same time every day, go to sleep. My circadian rhythm, I really pay attention to. I try and ground every
mm,
day, like quite literally put my bare feet. I like go down to the beach and really just connect in with that grounding energy. That really helps calm and center me. In terms
mm,
of work, I've really had to dial in my schedule and how I work because again, if I'm overscheduling myself or doing too many sessions, I will start getting energetically, physically drained, and it just doesn't allow me to show up for myself, for my own life, and then even for my clients. So I'd say
yeah.
really paying attention to all of those things for me has been crucial. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And that makes a lot of sense given what you're saying, and again, some sort of like opposites in our chart that make me chuckle in this moment. It's like you're a quad left, right? Or almost quad left. You have a your perspective arrow faces right, but I'm a quad
yeah.
right. So I'm like, woo,
Oh,
whatever, fuck a schedule. Like there's no I don't have any logical energy in my chart, not a single gate in
uh-huh.
the logic stream. So
Wow,
there's
that's
absolutely
interesting.
no routine or
Uh,
consistency there. And you
uh,
are shores environment, so going to
mm-hmm,
the beach every morning is going to really support your vehicle, like putting yourself in that chores environment. Meanwhile, here I am in
mm-hmm.
my closet cave, like
Yeah,
having this conversation and being like, yes, I love this little cave. So
yeah.
no, but that's super helpful to know, because even though you and I share this experience of like needing to set those energetic boundaries, and
Mm-hmm.
for me it's more like asking myself those questions, like what do I want to be recognized for, or what do I want to help people
Mm,
with, what do I want my impact to be, and sort of having that more in mind. For you
yeah.
it's more like, here, let me put on some like sort of outside in structure. For me it's sort of like inside out is, and not saying that you don't
Interesting.
do the inside out thing too, but it seems
Yeah.
like we sort of have a different approach to
100%.
it,
That absolutely makes
which
sense.
to oh I was just like, to see how anyway, I just think it's so interesting because like with the 5 and the 2, it's like the
Mm-hmm.
2 is like people are looking from the inside in the window,
Mm-hmm.
right? The 2 is like the first floor of the house, and so people are sort of
Yeah.
watching the the people from the outside, but the 5 is in
Yeah.
the upstairs window and is like watching everyone else. So it really is that sort of like inside out, outside in, whatever. I did
100%.
my hands the wrong way, but yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Do you feel, I have a question for you on that. Do you feel like
Yeah.
you are, it kind of relates back to like expectations in the projection field. Like, do you feel like you have a lot of expectations and projections placed on you? Do you feel like you're being like watched, or people are like wanting something from you? Like, what's been your experience with that? And again, I think
Yeah,
it relates to the that
mhm.
2-5. So.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I don't if there are, it translates as like me having an expectation on myself. I don't
Mm,
feel I don't feel like I'm being watched in a bad way. I actually love being watched, and like this recent thing that I discovered, it's taken me so long to edit this podcast, but
mm-hmm,
I I record a lot of my life, I have
mm,
conversations or stories or whatever. I'll just like turn my recording on and like put my phone down, and then later I'll be like, by the way, I recorded that story you said. It was so funny.
oh,
And people are
nice. Yeah.
typically happy about it. And so I was like, that's a great way to bring people into my life and watch me without me being like,
Mm-hmm,
"Hey, watch me." It's like I just sort of
mm-hmm,
edit this raw audio into things. So I personally I like being watched. That's the
yeah.
realm of the line too. The brand is like passion and image. We're here to project that image of ourselves.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I tend to have, maybe this is the line 5, like majority in my chart, I tend to have my a lot of expectations on myself in
Mm,
terms of like when it comes to business. So that's just speaking specifically about business. In my life, uh, you know, I feel like I'm not privy to these expectations. I feel like I feel
mm,
them subconsciously and not so much like super in my mind. But I
interesting.
do feel like I need to be the coach, and I need to like offer the support. And like when my friends are
Yeah.
going through it, like I'm gonna ask them about it. I
Yeah.
can't pretend like things are okay. That's not like a
For
Scorpio
sure.
moon thing for me to
No.
do.
And
Yeah,
totally,
I
I
have
have
to
a lot
like
of
hold the
Scorpio.
space.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
see it. We see it.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. I think we see it and we feel it. Like we're
Yeah,
we're attuned to it in some capacity. And so
for sure.
it's sort of hard not to want to say something or not to want to check in. So,
Yeah. Do you
yeah.
do you feel like you have a lot of expectations on you and people are expecting things from you?
Um I would say I felt that when I was younger, when I was not really consciously aware of all of this information. And again, I think
Mm.
it was more that projection field of like oh, people are like seeing something in me that they know can help them, can serve them in some way. And again,
Yeah.
yes, that is true. And yes,
Yeah.
I do want to do that. But it
Right.
also created a weird dynamic that I was aware of, that I was like, it just felt like
Yeah.
it was confusing in some ways, especially when I was younger, you know?
Yeah,
So,
for
yeah.
sure. For sure. To wrap this part of the conversation up in a bow, because I have so many other questions to ask you,
Yeah.
I think one of the things that helped me in my business when I got into it was I immediately was like, I'm not doing any like free coaching in my DMs. You know, no one's
Mm,
going to ask me any like
yes.
stuff. I'm not going to do that. And I feel like I've gotten really good at those energetic boundaries and sort of like
Yes.
psychically
Spot
protecting
on.
myself. And
Spot
then
on.
when you pay me and you're in my container, which again, another weird thing, you and I both have that 59 attraction. So we
Yeah.
attract people sort of through our transparency. You can ask me
Hmm.
any fucking question you want, and I will
Yes.
literally tell you. I will be like, oh, yeah, yeah, you want to see the behind the scenes of my business? Let me screen share, you know? But it's
Yeah.
that, it's like once we get the boundary is you pay to be in a certain container for it. And like recently,
Spot on.
yeah, I started teaching. I have my Gene Keys reader training program, and then that I just started this year, or
Hmm.
technically a few months ago, but it feels like it's starting anew.
Yeah.
But for many years, I had this like reading business program, but I would answer people's questions about their Gene Keys, or I'd do little mini readings in that business program. Once the
Yeah.
Gene Keys training began, I was like, ooh, there's something weird here, and then I had to inform as a manifesting generator, hey, no
Yeah.
more mini readings and no more Gene Keys stuff in this business. This is a
Mm.
business and strategy program. It just happens to be about
Yes.
human design businesses and Gene Keys businesses. But if you want
Yes.
to get my mini readings, just book a reading with me or get in this other program or whatever. But it
100%.
was a very quick feeling of like, oh, something's off. Oh, it's because I have a different offer where I do this now. And then I set that boundary pretty quickly. Yeah.
Spot on. I think boundaries and containers for people that contain this energy are incredibly important. And also, just, to wrap this up on my end of it too, again, learning about it changed my life. And it allowed
Yeah.
me to now step into this type of work where I really get to utilize it at its highest. Like, it wasn't really
Yeah.
serving me, like you mentioned, in this corporate environment. Like, if I was just, part of the team, but also being placed upon with these certain expectations, like now
Mm.
me sort of stepping out into this mentoring, teaching, coaching, guiding role, I really feel like I'm harnessing and utilizing this energy in its proper way. And so it's been such a gift, Yeah.
Heck
Yeah.
yes. I love
Heck yeah.
that. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, I have so many more questions and
Please, yeah.
specifically about the 2-5. I'm curious
Okay.
about innocence motivation because
Mm,
we're as transitional profiles, we have this
mm-hmm,
sort of like special motivation that
mm-hmm.
like Ra himself is like, this isn't a motivation. So I like working with innocence motivation has like changed my like transformed
Yeah.
everything about my life and the way that
Mm-hmm,
I relate to myself, and it really like has been helpful in business. It's been tricky to navigate in some instances
mm-hmm.
as well. So I'm curious about your experience with innocence motivation. Is that something
I
that you work with a lot?
No, I was going to say I love this question. I would actually love to hear how it's changed your life and your view on it,
Yeah.
because I'm always fascinated to hear like how other people
Yeah.
interact with that innocence motivation. So,
This is so
yeah.
great because this is my second podcast guest, and my guests keep asking me questions. I'm like on my own
I
podcast. I'm like,
love
I love
that.
this.
I
I get
actually
to
love
yeah.
when it's a conversation.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, this is what we were
Yeah.
talking about before. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. So, innocence motivation, like the first thing that it really did for me, I mean, of course, the first time I learned about it, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I had no idea what I was like learning, of course. But once
Yeah.
I like learned what it was and read the words, these people are not designed to have an agenda to change the world, it felt like
Mm,
it took like existential pressure off me,
yeah.
because
Yes.
for most of my life, and I've really been having this conversation with a good friend of mine,
Mm,
Neha, who is a guilt motivation individual, and she's a left
mm,
angle cross. And so much of her existence is about, empowering others and sort of changing the world and whatever. And
yeah.
that shit fucks me up. So, for me, so I spent most of my life, we talked about like being young, and so at 14 became like a vegetarian, and I was studying marine science
Mm-hmm,
my whole life. That's my manifesting generator past life, is I have like published
mm-hmm.
papers on oyster greenhouse gas cycling, and so I
Oh,
was very
amazing.
like committed to the environment. And so I spent like a long fucking time, like at least a decade, just like fighting everyone all the time about the
Yeah.
environment and the animals and fucking
Mm-hmm.
activism. And, I come from a very conservative Venezuelan family where
Mm-hmm.
Catholicism is the norm, and people and everyone says out of pocket sort of like, homophobic or sort of racist
Mm,
comments. And so my whole life, and I'm one of four children, I have three brothers, so it's
yeah.
just me by myself, always being like, stop saying that, that's not nice, like blah 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 blah
Yeah.
blah. And it was with this sort of transferred desire motivation, but the way that I like it described is when it's transferred, it's dumb desire. You don't know how to change the world, you don't know what needs to be changed, you don't
Yeah.
know what you need to do to change it. It's like, and
Mm-hmm.
it fucks your shit up to say it in that way. So for
Totally.
me, like learning about the innocence motivation and being like, oh, I'm not here to have an agenda to change the world. Like I'm here to
Mm-hmm.
be myself, and that is the role model energy, right? That's the
Mm-hmm.
six. It's a six color, so it's a
Right.
six. It shares those same tonal sort of frequencies with the sixth
Mm-hmm.
line. You're here to be yourself and sort of be a role model, and through you being yourself, that is how you change the world.
Yes.
And
Yes.
there
Yes.
shouldn't be an agenda. And so for me, and I have so many things in my chart where, again, a little bit of a difference between you and me, like I'm
Yeah.
like mostly individual circuitry and like just very selfish, and I don't have really
Mm-hmm.
that much collective circuitry really at all.
Yeah.
And just very sort of like self-focused and me, but in a way of like me being, which is why I love the Gene Key so much.
Yeah.
Richard is like, you living your highest purpose, your higher purpose rather, you awakening to your higher purpose is the way you can be of the greatest service to the whole.
One
Like
thousand
you
percent.
living out your gifts and your cities is the way that you can serve others. And so for
Mm-hmm.
me, just being able to be like, oh my God, I don't have to like write a manifesto for my business. I don't have to have a mission and
Yes.
vision statement, like all of that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Like, oh, it just took so much pressure off. I had to stop coaching for a while, like one on one, because I felt like I was like trying to get into that desire motivation with people. So I just would let people
Yeah.
watch me. I'm also the
Mm,
observed like trajectory. So people are here to
yeah.
watch me again, which is why I don't mind being watched.
Yeah.
So I stepped back for a bit, and that really was useful. But yeah, that's how it really
No.
changed everything for
Oh,
me. Yeah.
I love your answer to that, and I highly, highly relate to that. I think,
Mm,
like you said, it's a breath of fresh air. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
something that I've like what I've really been pondering and sinking into and living into over these last couple years is like it's just a deep surrender. It's a deep surrender, trust, and faith that
Mm.
it's not a striving, it's not a fighting. It's just being, sharing, doing, being present, sharing this wisdom, helping, guiding, being of service is
Yeah.
all that is important and is all that is needed and is all that is necessary. And I think I've also been somebody that has put such pressure on myself,
Yeah.
in previous parts of my life of wanting to fight, wanting to change. And and again, the way that I work is I make, correlations to all of these other modalities, this and synthesize the information. Like it also reminds me of my Sagittarius South node, which is like wants to know the truth and wants to like spread the wisdom and wants to fight and wants to preach. And where really
Mhm.
like my soul's journey, my dharmic path is moving more towards this Gemini energy, which is like actually there are multiple truths, there are multiple realities. How can we
Mm.
come together and share and learn and grow from each other without this sort of like pressure to fight or
Yeah.
push an agenda or anything like that? So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And it reminds me of something I wanted to say earlier about the power of now, being that our
Yeah.
north and south nodes are that 3420. It's like in the
Hmm.
now. And I was like flabbergasted to realize that Eckhart Tolle doesn't have gate 20 in his chart.
Oh.
I've connected a couple other gates and gifts and cities with that energy of like being Eckhart Tolle blissed out on a park bench, just fully present. It doesn't have to be the
Yeah,
word presence, in terms of
for
the
sure.
Gene Keys city. But yeah, no, I'm glad it's I'm glad it's also been something that you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I don't have to like fight anymore," because truly one of the things, like innocence motivation was so profound for me that when I would meet other transitional profiles, I'd be like
Hmm.
earlier in their journey, I'd be like, "Do you know about this? Because you need to know about
I
this,"
love that. I think that's such valuable information. 100%. Do you
Yeah.
experience presence? Are you like, is that something that you like, contain
Yeah.
strongly within your, yeah, what's been your experience with that?
Yeah. So this is like an experience I've had where the more I decondition, the more impossible it is to do something that is not my chart, right? And so
Mm,
for me, the more I decondition, the less possible it is to not do everything in the now, you know?
yeah,
So like
yeah.
from booking flights 2 days beforehand, even though I've sort of known I wanted to do that thing for a couple months, but like I wasn't
Uh,
ready to pull the trigger
I do the
to
same
like
thing. Yeah.
yeah, it's just like I'm just like the spontaneous psycho who's like, "Yeah, like Bali? Sure, I'll book it right away. Like book it. I'll book it like 2 days
Yeah.
before or whatever, you know?" So,
Yeah.
yeah, like I also read The Power of Now. I read it when I was 20 when I did my first teacher training and I was like
Mhm.
fucking mind blown by that whole book and that whole experience and
Yeah.
really set me into like the whole time I was in that teacher training, I really tried to never really use my screen when I was like eating and like do sort of what Eckhart Tolle says,
Mhm.
which is like feel the food in your mouth and don't try to like describe it. Don't try to like, you know, put anything on it, just experience it. I was doing sort of my meditation and
Yeah.
yeah, I'll just share like a I could talk a lot of like pithy nonsense about presence, but I'll just share like a more sort of real experience
Yeah.
where often when I travel, I tend to have like when I just have a moment of like looking at the nature of the place that I'm
Oh,
in,
nature.
like
Yeah.
I feel a lot of things, you know,
Yes.
when I'm not like
Yes.
taking the picture or whatever and I'm just like there, it tends
Mhm.
to be like a religious experience. So, yeah, that's sort of the way
Highly,
it shows up for me. Yeah. Besides being like a psycho,
highly
like in the moment liver, yeah.
Yeah,
What about you?
highly relate to that, the nature part of it. I mean,
Mm,
it's like mandatory for me to have to get out in nature. Like I try every day, if not every other day. Like it fully brings me back into the present moment in my
yeah,
body, calms the mind down. I have a very active mind, based off a
yeah,
couple different placements in my overall blueprint, and so yeah, it's just, and again, it's just the wisdom. The wisdom lives in the body. So the more present that
yeah.
we can be, the more I feel attuned to all of these things. Um, yeah, what were
Yes.
you gonna say? Yeah,
I was just like, "Ah!" This is why I love human design and Gene Keys, and also the
yeah,
fact that human design was, like, transmitted with Western astrology because all
yeah.
3 of these systems are focused on the body as the tool to
Mm,
spiritual awakening, rather than, like,
yes.
bypassing the body, and, you know, for me, having 54 5 times in my chart where the keynote is something to the effect of, like, finding the mystical and the mundane, that's, like,
Hmm.
literally what human design and Gene Keys and like from my understanding Western astrology sort of places on it's like the mundane experience, you know, especially
Hmm.
the I Ching and Gene Keys. It's like just your lived real experience. So yeah, you sort
Yes.
of saying right now like getting into the body, it's like that's literally the fucking tool. You know, it's not about
One
us, you know,
hundred percent.
bypassing it and like ascending into our rainbow body. It's about like being here now, going back to that
Ah, spot
presence.
on. And God, I think we could talk probably for 8 hours straight about just the body, but it's of massive,
Yeah.
massive importance. I think another interesting way that presence kind of shows up for me, is in how I work. When I do my one-on-one sessions, I try to be as hyper present as possible because it also like part of how I work is I get people's blueprint information. I check in with them about certain context and clarity about their life and what's going on, and then I do several hours of research into their blueprint before we meet as I'm like kind of
Mm,
synthesizing all of this information across all these different modalities. And so then I'm sort of utilizing that left brain part of myself. And then when I'm in session, I really try and be as hyper present as possible, activate that right brain. And I have 63 and 64 in
mhm.
gates activated in my incarnation cross of consciousness. And I really try and allow myself to channel and to be hyper present. And so I it's sort of like an energetic transmission as well in terms of what I'm doing. And the interesting thing is like a lot of times right after my sessions, I like will not remember them, or I will not like it leaves me
Yeah.
because I'm so hyper present in the moment, which is beautiful. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's one of the gifts of the 20, and you have the channel of channeling, which is
Yeah.
the channel of awakening, right? 10-20, and then
Hmm.
and you have 34-20. I have the flip side, so I have 34-20, but 57-20, channel of the
Yeah.
brainwave. And so for me, it's also like a channeling experience. And my sort of like the way that I put this together in the Gene Keys, it's like when I'm doing a reading, I actually don't do the prep work that you're talking about. I don't spend a
Mm,
bunch of time prepping beforehand. I have a template process. I put together someone's, it's just 4 spheres and 4 lines and 4 Gene Keys. So it's easy for like,
yeah,
or with a Venus sequence, it's 6. So I put those together. I trust my body of knowledge. I've been studying this shit for a long time. I've done hundreds of
yeah,
readings. And then when I get into the moment with that person, I'm like, okay, yeah, here's like the practical stuff that's coming through. Yeah, this is,
uh-huh,
for example, like a quick example, it's like a lot of, for example, like gate 22, the shadow is dishonor. And people are like, what the fuck does that mean? And it's like, okay, it's just about dishonoring your emotions. So I'll give like the practical translation. But then
yeah,
like as I'm going, like there, I'm like tuning into something else. I'm
for
channeling something
sure.
else in that experience too. And to your point, I don't remember it. And so some of my favorite things to do is go back and watch my own like videos, not
Yeah,
necessarily of readings, but like this morning I led a call for my Gene Keys reader training people
uh-huh.
on a module that I created a month ago. So I had to like rewatch the module and I was like, damn, this is a good ass module. I said those things. It's so
Yeah.
smart. Cause I don't fucking remember.
Well, it's just
So
really, it's again, the beauty of presence. It's so
yeah.
powerful when you're letting the wisdom not only come from your body, but you're allowing your body to be the vessel and the channel to bring in this light, this information, this wisdom, and have it be expressed through
Yeah.
you. It's incredibly powerful. It's one of my favorite things.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah,
it's so good. It's so good.
yeah,
But yeah, I agree. I
yeah.
think we could probably talk a lot longer about all of these
Oh
things.
God,
But
we'll have to do this again. Yeah, we're gonna have
yeah,
to
we'll do it
we'll
again.
have to do this again. Yeah, for sure.
We'll just
Yeah,
do like a quarterly podcast and just, go through all of the different things. Yeah, we love it.
beautiful,
But I
beautiful.
wanted to
Yeah,
give you a chance to talk a little bit more about what you do. You use this
sure.
particular word, like alignment coach.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, like, what that word means to you. I mean, I have like, especially because that word, a lot of times people are like, that's so like pithy. Like, what does that even mean? I've
Mm-hmm.
heard a lot of people say
Mm-hmm.
that, but then I have a
Yeah.
very like real experience of what that word means. So what does it
Yeah.
mean to you? What does being an alignment coach mean for you?
Yeah. Alignment to me, I mean, it means so many different things, but it means flow, it means synthesis, it means forward motion, it means joy. I've found when I'm in alignment, when my clients are in alignment, my life just works. My life just flows. I have an increase of energy. I see the path ahead. So it's to me, it's quite literally a palpable thing. It's something that you can see, that you can
Mm,
feel, that you can experience. Um,
yeah.
and again, like it's funny. I did struggle at first to in terms of what I wanted to call myself.
Yeah.
I landed on alignment coach because it felt the most true to what I do and how my service that I offer right now. And who knows, this could evolve over time.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned earlier, what I do is I do mostly one-on-one sessions with people. Typically, my core offering is like a 2-hour deep dive session. I
So
meet with
cool.
my client beforehand, yeah, and they just give me some background information about their life and what's going on and what they want clarity on and what feels out of alignment. Truly, like what's not working in
Yeah.
your life right now.
Mm,
That's really like what we want to hone in on. What's out of alignment? What's not working? Where do you want to go? Again, then go and do research into all of these modalities because what I'm really looking for are the patterns, energies, archetypes that I'm really seeing emerge across all of these different modalities, and that's why I like it brings me so much excitement every time I do this because it's like putting puzzle pieces together. It's like a symphony of patterns, energies, and archetypes that I'm seeing across all of these different modalities. And I use astrology and astrocartography and human design and gene keys and numerology and the chakras and Socratic questioning and all of these things that I just over my 25 plus year journey of research and experience that I can pull from and draw from to then go into the session and really help people find what's been blocking them, some core wounds, some core patterns, and then
mm,
part of this magic, and I know you know this as well. It's like not only understanding your blueprint, your design, all of this information. It's so critical to having an increased level of self awareness and consciousness. But then it's like, okay, well, how do I use this information in a grounded, practical, day to day way? What actions can I take? What decisions can I make that are
yeah.
actually going to lead me to change and lead me into the alignment of my life that like I really desire. So That's what I
Yeah,
do. That's why I call myself an alignment coach.
love
That's
it.
a big core of it. So yeah.
It's almost like your vocation is the gate of pattern seeking and your life's work is the gate of putting the puzzle pieces together.
Oh,
So
it's
I love it.
almost
Very
almost like that. That's the case. Yeah. No, and again, like that's alignment for me. Like truly, it just it blows me away, and it brings me so much joy and flow to know that I'm
yeah.
aligning with my blueprint, my design, and offering it to the world to be of service as well.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. And the ways, one of the ways that I describe it to play off sort of what you were describing or what you were
Hmm.
saying, like to add to that, is one of the cool things about human design and gene keys and astrology, or whatever, is that it gives you your path, yes, but it also
Hmm.
gives you contrast to other people's
Yeah.
paths. So it's like, look, you don't have
Yes.
to do all this other shit. So then you can just
Yes.
stay focused on your thing and put all your
Path.
energy in that direction. And that's why your life just flows. And that's why you have energy efficiency,
Hmm.
because it's like, oh, thank God, I'm not a line one vocation. I don't have to create something new. Fuck yeah, I can just like
Hmm.
translate someone else's original creation. Slay.
God,
It really, yeah, it gives you that
I love
contrast, which
that.
I love.
Well,
Yeah.
and contrast to build on top of that, and again, such a big part of my work is like it's confirmation and validation that like this is your unique design, this is your unique blueprint, this is your unique path. Like you don't need to judge yourself for not being a certain way or compare yourself to others. Like this is who you truly uniquely are. Now you get to move forward and utilize this brilliant unique design and your gifts to find your
Yeah,
alignment, to
man.
find your path forward. So, yeah, it's
Love it.
confirmation and validation, and it's so funny because honestly, so often in my sessions, people are like, "Oh God, I knew that," or "Oh God, I've felt that forever," and I'm like, "Here it is. Here's your proof. Here's your confirmation. Here's your validation." So it's really beautiful. It's really
Yes.
empowering. So.
Yeah, 100%. I was with my friend Neha that I was talking about earlier, and our other
Mhm.
friend who isn't familiar with this stuff, versus like Neha studied astrology for like over 10 years and human design for
Yeah.
like 7 now at this point.
Hmm.
And she said something that I always say, which is like, you're never telling someone anything new, in a session. Like they
No.
already know it. You're just sort of like
Hmm.
giving them like the language and the validation and the permission, like you were saying.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to ask you about something in particular because I know that you worked with
Please.
clients one on one before, like sort of going public on Instagram.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I'm really curious about that because so many of my clients like hate social media and like would rather like not have to market on there. And I
Hmm.
fucking love social media. So
Yeah.
I I I don't know what that transition is to like sort of getting to love it. So how did you actually
Yeah.
get clients before
Ooh.
and what catalyzed you to like go public?
Oh, this is such a juicy question. I think just because my brain is whirring a mile a minute in terms of what to answer. I think in terms of like how I found clients beforehand, it was definitely word of mouth, and it was that I think being recognized, that 2-5. Like I was naturally inherently doing this work anyway, and so it then just turned into me doing one-on-one sessions, and then it really grew through word of mouth throughout my community here in LA, and even then across the country and whatever. So that's really how I focused it. Um, I I think for me, in terms of like not necessarily wanting to go public for a while, I think there was two factors at play. I think we can kind of go look back to the 2-5 and the projection field. Um,
Mm,
I I typically have not been someone that has loved being in the public eye because of the feeling of the feeling of the energy that attracts, especially with
mm,
having to deal with that palpable energy of the projection fields. It's felt previously like a lot of pressure to me, you know.
mm, mm.
So then I think the other thing I would say is I contain a lot of Virgo energy in my chart, and there's a lot of energy of perfectionism and worrying
Mm,
about showing up in a way that's quote unquote perfect or of the highest order, and being a little bit hesitant to put myself out there from that regards as well. And so the way that I really transmuted that is like, it's not about me. It's not about me personally.
mm,
It's not about my ego. It's about me being of service. Again, sort of almost that innocence motivation again. It's like the way that I
mm,
really like got over that hump was it's it's something that I love and I'm so passionate about, and it's something that, you know, it's work that I get to be of service of in this world and help other people. And so I make it about that. Like, it's about being of service. It's about the work. It's about the people that I'm working with and helping. And so it's really relieved a lot of that like internal pressure of like having to show up a certain way or be a certain way
Mm.
or anything like that. So it's been incredibly freeing in that sense, for me. Yeah. Does that
Yeah,
does that
fascinating.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I want to maybe another point get more into the nitty-gritty of like, but really how does word of mouth work? Unless you want to share about it now, because I feel like a lot of people say that and it's like I like to give real examples like, no, I started with my friend from college asked me about their
Hmm.
astrology and then they did this and then they told their mom. So like if
Yeah.
you can share, if you don't mind me like prying a
Oh,
little bit into the
for
nitty-gritty,
sure.
like
No, for
can you
sure.
give us a practical way that this actually played out?
Yeah, I would say, well, first of all, it's always sort of, at least for a lot of even clients that I work with, it's sort of inherently like vulnerable to claim that you're doing this work and that you are a
Oh
steward
yeah.
of this information and want to be of service. And
Yeah.
so I always like, the way I started and the way that I encourage other people is like, just start, just do it with a friend. It doesn't have to be a session. You don't have to charge money. Just give
Right.
yourself the opportunity to practice. So that's really how it started with me, is again, like, I was doing all of this research and all of this learning for myself because I was interested in
Right.
it, because I wanted to learn
Right.
about it, because I needed this information. And then becoming so wise and experienced with it, I obviously started talking about it. Other friends started being interested in it. I started doing readings for friends. I would highly encourage anybody that's listening that is in this sort of phase of life, offer it to friends,
Yes.
offer it to family, offer it to friends of friends. Like, if you are worried about being judged or worried about like any of that, like, find people that are just completely open to it and that are willing to experience you and make it something fun. Then it sort of transitioned into being like, oh, this is something that I really enjoy doing, that I'm good at, that people are getting a lot of value out of. And so then for me, again, because it's usually typically helpful to have a build up to it. I was like, okay, I'm going to offer a session for this lower amount of money because, again, it's just going to give me the experience, but it's a proper container and I'm
Right.
being compensated for it. Then that led me, again, like, just doing sessions for people and impacting people in that
Mhm.
way. It leads to them being like, I want you to do a reading for my friend, for my boyfriend,
Mhm.
for my husband, for my partner. And then
Mhm.
slowly building up into doing longer sessions, charging more, charging full rates, then officially starting a business out of it. I think in terms of
Cool.
like really doing word of mouth, I connected with people in LA that have like large followings online, and
Right.
started working with them, and they also have very prolific networks, not only online but also personally. I think LA is a place,
Mhm.
again, like we talked about before we started recording, like LA is a prime location for this type of work. There's a lot of people that are interested in this work and that also do similar work. And so I think being in that type of network also really helped me kind
Yeah.
of grow the word of mouth way. So
Cool. Thanks for giving
yeah,
us like a
yeah,
practical way that that
of
looked and
course, yeah.
I appreciate that, and I find that interesting because that's technically exactly how I started as well, except I just
Yeah.
already had the intention of it being a business, and I already had
Mm-hmm.
a page, and I created formal checkout pages and stuff for everything. But yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
did start just giving friends readings, and like I remember, like when I got really excited about human design, just like being on the phone with my best friend, the one who lives in LA, and
Yeah.
being like, "What's your dad's birth time?" and like pulling his chart and being
Yeah.
like, "He's this, he's that," and like just reading the blog post that I was seeing, which like full circle, the blog that I followed like is a person that follows me and now we're like friends, which is just so
Isn't
funny.
that
Like, but
amazing? I know.
yeah, I love it. I think it's so
Mm-hmm.
interesting. But
Yeah.
yeah, since we're getting closer to the end of time, I have a
Sure.
selfish astrology
Please.
question
Yeah.
and
Oh my
then I
God.
have some like end of episode questions for the
Okay.
guests. So,
Beautiful.
Virgo, how can Earth be mutable? Please explain this to me. I don't understand that because to me, Earth is
Ooh.
so. I get the fixed Taurus, I get the cardinal Capricorn energy because that's what I am. But Virgo,
Mm-hmm.
I have a Chiron Virgo in the eighth house. I'm just so curious about
Yeah.
Earth being mutable. Like, what the fuck? I need to understand.
Yeah. Virgo, it's kind of Virgo in like an esoteric and evolutionary astrology sense, it's sort of like the energy of a vessel. It's like a vessel of energy, a vessel of healing, a
Mm,
vessel of change, a vessel of transformation, a vessel of service. And so
mm,
that's inherently mutable energy when you are in the pursuit of transmutation, of alchemization. Virgo in some traditions, and some people like to allude it to almost like the Mother Mary archetype, who is alchemizing into the sort of Christ energy. So
makes
it's
sense.
it's an alchemization, it's a transmutation. Does that I know that I went a little bit more
Yeah.
esoteric there, but
No,
how does that, yeah,
no, yeah, that lands because like earth to me, is healing, and it's paired
yeah,
with water, right? And water is also healing, and so that dynamic makes sense to me. And like,
hmm,
it being a vessel, it's like, yeah, things are born out of the earth. Like that makes sense to me as well. Like it's fertile. I can also see how things could be born out of water. We literally came from the ocean. But,
yeah,
it's like I can see the sort of like, what's the word? Like pairing, I want to say pairing partner like in the gene keys, but the opposition between the two, the
yeah,
mirroring
yeah,
between the two.
sister,
Yeah.
yeah, like sister,
Yeah.
yeah, is Pisces,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so, yeah, like I can't describe it too well yet, but I feel like a resonance in my bones. Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
curious. Well, what about your Chiron in Virgo do you like? Does it feel a little bit difficult to penetrate or to understand? Like, what is it about that? Yeah.
No, no, it's more I'm so something that's been so helpful to me in understanding the gene keys is layering the astrology. And
Mm,
that's what I teach in my program. And so when I'm talking
yeah.
about, a gate, I can say like, oh yeah, 64, it's Virgo, it's mutable earth, and it's paired with Pisces, 63, mutable water, and
Yeah.
blah blah blah. And I can talk about the sort of dichotomy, maybe that's the word I was looking for, the
Yeah.
opposition between the two.
Uh huh.
And like I understand mutable and I understand earth, but I was just like, mutable earth, like how can earth be mutable? Like I just wanted to know that. And I've heard words like the landslide, versus like, Capricorn being a meteor or Taurus being like a rock, like the difference between the types of earth. But to
Yeah.
me, I can understand basically every other combination in the chart. But I was like, earth, it feels so stable to me that the fact that it's
Mm,
changing and mutable to me was
hmm.
interesting. I understand my Chiron Virgo from the perspective of I have an eighth house wound, which makes sense. And then
Yeah.
the gate is 40. So aloneness,
Right.
another thing I've dealt with a lot in my life. And
Yeah.
to bring up some astrology from earlier, I think one of the reasons for me it was always very easy to like start a business is like I have a moon in the 10th house, all of my chart is above the horizon, like
Yeah.
so I watch me, I want to be seen, and I noticed your chart, so many of the placements were sort of under the horizon there. But
Yeah.
anyway, so that was my question about Virgo. It's like how can earth be changing and mutable? Like it feels like it's meant to be steady or initiating.
Yeah, I think again it is quite spiritual and esoteric, and especially with that Virgo and Pisces kind of being these sister polar signs. It's like and again even that 64, like you were saying, it's like it's in movement, it's in flow, it's a vessel, it's a channel. So it's like, then how can we ground that information, that type of energy, into a practical way of being of service? Because that's kind of that Virgo energy, whereas Pisces is sort of like this etheric, watery, in the realms of being of service and healing. Virgo is about it being grounded and embodied. I think that's where that earth part of it comes in. It's embodied healing, it's embodied service, it's embodied flow, it's embodied like
Yeah.
transformation and alchemization.
I love that. Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
have any Piscean placements, but I have six when I use whole sign. I have six 12 house placements. So yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely can
How do
relate
you
to
relate
that
to that?
to
I
that
mean,
energy.
it is fascinating. You do have a highly specialized chart. I mean, six placements in the 12th house is an immense amount of energy in that Piscean realm. So I'm curious to hear that about that from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. my joke is like, I'm super spiritual, but make it structured, because it's like
Yeah.
all like Capricorn placements. And so
Uh-huh.
one of the ways that I best see like an example of that is in my app, the Cosmic Compendium, which is like
Mm,
a wiki journal database hybrid for synthesizing human design and gene keys and astrology
beautiful.
information. And so it's like I took all of this spiritual stuff and all of this whatever, and then I was like, let me make a database and let's
Oh,
filter
that's
the tags and
perfect.
like
Yeah.
and make it like organized. And so one of the things that was really validating to me was getting a reading from my friend Neha and
Hmm.
talking about how like I just constantly feel this isolation, and I get that I have a wound in gate 40 of
Mm,
aloneness,
hmm.
and I get that I have a wound of relationships in the gene keys, and that my evolution is relationships in the
Hmm.
activation sequence. I understand that, but what does astrology have to say about it besides the wound? And she was like, 12th house people will always experience isolation and sort of like being
Hmm.
misunderstood. And like a lot of like
Hmm.
famous people have 12th house placements because it's really isolating to be famous. Like you
Hmm.
don't, not a lot of people have that experience, sort of like the lonely at the top experience. Again,
Yes, yes,
having
yes.
those all be Capricorn with like wanting to get to the top or whatever is like
Yeah.
also very true for me. So yeah,
Hmm.
I have this experience of like my chart feels like lightning in a bottle. It's all very
Yeah.
compressed and very like concentrated. Like in human design, I out of 26 gate possible activations, I only have 17, because there's so
Mm,
many repetitions. Like gate
yes.
54 5 times, 44 twice, 34 20 twice,
Hmm.
whatever the fuck a million times. So
Yeah.
yeah, I to me it's all I know, right? But my 12th house challenges has mostly been the isolation because I want to be connected, because I'm
Yeah.
Aquarius rising, I want to have friends, because I'm a gate 44 vocation of relationships. I
Hmm.
want to be the cheerleader. I want to have community. My Yeah, so anyway, that's how it
I
goes
relate
for
to
me.
you. No, I actually totally relate to you because I have a 12th house Venus.
Yeah.
So I experienced that as well. And I know for me, again, we kind of talked about this already with the 2 and the 5, like energetic and boundaries for me is incredibly important. Even that 2 of the hermit, like I really do need time alone to decompress
Yeah.
and be in my own energy and all of those things. It's just been so important to kind of manage that boundary of like, okay, am I recharging and getting time alone, or am I actually isolated right now?
Yeah.
So how do you experience that? Like, what's been the isolation kind of like experience for you?
Yeah, I've had my more recent isolation experience is so I have my little Saturn tattoo because I'm just all Saturn
Oh,
energy.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
During the pandemic, Saturn was transiting my 12th house, and that's when
Oof,
I
yeah.
started this business. And so I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. I don't have to hang out with anyone. I can just work 7 days a week. Incredible. And that's like all I
Mhm.
did. And then Saturn went into
Capricorn.
Aquarius.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then Saturn
Yeah.
went into Aquarius, which is my first house, and then I was like, "Oh my god, I'm alone all the time. Like what the fuck? Like I need to connect
Yeah.
with people."
Hmm.
And, I sort of moved to Boston, and in 2022, like I was telling you this earlier, it's like I moved there because I knew people there. But
Yeah.
what I didn't tell you is that the second I got to Boston 2 months later, everyone that I knew left.
Oh my
So
God.
then I didn't know anyone, and
Yeah.
I spent 2022 being very, very isolated, and it was sort
Mm.
of compounded with, like, having my dog there, which was
Hmm.
really not ever, like, my dog, it was sort of like the family dog that I then, like, took on, so it
Right.
was hard to sort of, like, leave the house. I wanna like, my dream was, like, I'm gonna, like, be out all day and, like, co-working and, like, going to
Yeah.
WeWork and whatever, and then I
Yeah.
wasn't because I
Yeah.
had to be at home with the dog. But then I really I actually have a whole episode planned on this,
Oh, cool.
of putting in some pretty aggressive work into community building,
Oh,
and
it's so
ended up,
important.
yeah, with my at the end of my time there, being, as call it, surrounded by like a gaggle of girls, all the time,
Amazing.
and like
Yeah.
having people to do everything with, and the sort of,
Hmm.
because of that 59, it's like the type of connection that I want is like it's really intimate connection. So it was like
Yes.
the
Same.
types of friendships I wanted were like, hey, like just come to my house and sit on my couch while I cook and clean, like that's while I do
Hmm.
my chores. You can just chat. I don't want it to be that we have to get up and get ready and plan a date 2 weeks in advance. It's like I just want you to be
Yeah.
my sister, my neighbor, just come over.
Yeah.
So I think that answered your question maybe. So
No, totally
that was
did.
yeah.
Totally. I highly relate to that. I think this also comes up. I'm sure it comes up for you. It comes up in my sessions all the time. is how important it is, not only community and human connection, but also, again, this sort of confirmation and validation about like what type of relationship feels good for you, what type of
Yeah.
community feels good for you. You know, it's
Yeah.
so crucial. We are, no matter how many, I think, placements you have around being alone or isolation or 12th house or any of this stuff, we do all need to kind of be seen and be heard and
Yeah.
be loved and all of these things. So yeah,
100%. I will definitely
yeah.
be having you back and we can chat all about
Oh, I
44
would love
vocations and
to. Yeah.
community and all of that. But to
So when are
keep,
you moving to
yeah.
LA? When are you moving to LA? Speaking of community, you know.
I might actually be there this summer. So yeah, so we can grab an Erewhon. I love Erewhon. We can grab an Erewhon
Beautiful.
food
We'll
together.
grab an Erewhon. Yeah,
I
we'll grab
love
an
it.
Erewhon.
Yeah, but
Cool.
we'll see. I'll be doing some abroad travel for the next like
Fun.
foreseeable future, maybe
Hmm.
1 to 3 years is what it feels like.
Okay, Miss
But I
Sagittarius North Node. That's how proper is that for you? You know.
right.
Yeah.
But I have this feeling I'm going to end up on the West Coast, so
Cool.
I'll keep you posted.
I feel it. For some
But
reason, I feel it. I get it. Yeah.
all right, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah.
But yeah, to honor your time, I just have some last questions
Please,
that
yeah.
I you get to be the first to answer them. These are some questions
Amazing.
that I'm
I'm
just
so
curious about from
excited.
everyone.
Okay.
So my first just three that we could probably have spent the whole episode on, but I'll
Yeah.
keep them short.
Okay.
So what is one thing that you were like always like misunderstood, like something
Mm.
about you was you always felt misunderstood about it, that your chart gave you the permission and the validation to be like, holy fuck, I'm not crazy, like this is me.
Ooh, God, there's so many ways to answer that. Um, I'd say the 2 and the 5 in the projection field was probably one of the biggest, but something else is really coming
Cool.
to my mind right now. I think I have always been somebody that's been a little bit of like an observer and a little bit of like I wanted to understand and I wanted to know things. And so I think that would cause me to be a little bit removed from like the action. And
Mhm.
so I think that was something that I was curious about, and I think other people saw me and were like, is like, what is this remove a little bit, you know? And so I, understanding that and understanding that I am just somebody here to learn about consciousness, to learn about spirituality, to learn about myself and life and the way that we all work, was incredibly freeing in terms of like, yeah, understanding myself and my blueprint and my design and putting it into context. So yeah, I'd say that.
Mm.
Yeah,
Heck yeah, I love that.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
This next question is I have to give some context. As you
Okay.
asked her earlier, I'm a
Yeah,
context provider.
yeah.
I have this experience of when we go through the deconditioning process, we sort of start with getting our conditioning reflected back to us. And we're like, oh no, I wish I was a manifester and I could just, initiate poor me being a generator. But then
Yeah,
as you decondition, you like have this experience of like, no, motherfucker, I have the best fucking chart. You wish you had my
yeah.
chart because it feels so good to live to you. And there are
Yes.
some things in your chart that I can become like a cocky asshole about because I'm like, look at me, like I have like 51, like whatever. So
Yeah.
what in your chart are you a cocky asshole about where you're like, look at me, like I have this energy?
Oh, I love that
So you could say like a
question.
favorite part of your chart, but I want to give you my Scorpio Capricorn arrogance. What is something you can be a cocky
Oh,
asshole about in your chart?
I love that. I would say the the couple things that are coming to my mind, I think, is the 3420. I
Mm,
think I've found such power and resonance in that
yeah.
personally, and I think it's really served me in a really powerful way. I think it's a true gift. Truly, I think it's such a true gift. And then I really, really like the 63 and the 64. That took me a really long time to understand and wrap my brain around and work with, but I
Mm,
love it now. I
mm,
really love that. So, yeah.
cool.
I'm
Yeah,
curious.
those are
Yeah,
powerful aids.
what did you? I'm curious what you when you saw my chart. What like if anything really stuck out to you?
Well, I think just the initial thing that stuck out to me was like how funnily, weirdly our charts like
Yeah,
mirror each other.
yeah.
But Yeah, I think, like, just seeing that all of your channels, your only channels are the integration channels, I think
Yeah.
is, like, super profound, because it's like
Hmm.
there's no consistent tribal or, or individual. I mean, it's like sub-individual sort of, or like
Hmm.
collective energy. It's like you just consistently are this self-empowering person, I find that to
Hmm.
be really interesting when people, as a person with a lot of integration circuitry myself, I love
Yeah.
connecting with other integration people, but
Yeah.
I don't know, besides just someone having just the 3420, I haven't really seen a chart like yours where it's like
Mm.
3420 and 10 or whatever is like the
Hmm.
only circuitry that's there.
What's your
Yeah.
interpretation of that? I would love to hear your interpretation of that.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of goes with that cheerleader vibe that we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier with the 44. It's like you're a
Yeah.
self cheerleader, and so it comes
Hmm.
naturally for you to like cheerlead to others. It's the
Hmm.
things that we were talking about earlier. It's like you have that power in the now, you channel in the now. And
Hmm.
the difference between you and I is you actually know who you are and where you're going. I
Hmm.
don't. I just have
Hmm.
the like splenic hits to sort of guide me, and my
Hmm.
spleen is like powered by my root, so there's a little bit
Yeah.
of like extra energy there. You know who you are and where you're going. I don't.
Yeah.
I just have my like splenic hits,
Hmm.
but I also have root and emotional energy, and you have
Hmm.
all of that stuff open. You're
Hmm.
super intuitive, with that 64, like really sort of in that mystical field of channeling
Hmm.
and understanding. You're feeling it physically too in your body because you're so open,
Hmm.
and you're finding those patterns with that 44.
Hmm.
Yeah, I find you to be a super intuitive individual, especially with that 57 rising in your Libra, having that
Yeah.
intuition, but then
Hmm.
you just channel it in a really powerful way, and in like a boom 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 boom, like get it done sort of way. So
I
that's
love
like how
that.
I would see that. Does that
Such a
feel
beautiful reflection. Oh my
true?
God, that feels so true. And I, again, like sort of what we were talking about earlier, like, yes, that's self empowerment. And I think that's been such a core thread of my whole life is like, listen, we all go through difficult times and traumas and difficulties. And I think even for me, I've had Pluto on my Capricorn moon for the last 15 years. It's been intense. But I kind of have always had this notion that like, things are going to be okay and that I'm
Yeah.
here for a purpose and that we can transmute things and we can find our own power. And that's also just such a message that I love to give to other people as well. So I really loved that reflection. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
We're bringers of good news. And yeah, I hear you with the
100%.
Pluto. We didn't get to this
Yeah.
necessarily, but I find the Pluto shift so interesting now,
Oh
having had
God.
Pluto in my big three,
Yeah.
Scorpio, Capricorn, now Aquarius.
Hmm.
Like you're free of the Pluto. I'm two
Yeah.
Aquarius and four Scorpio. Like I'm like
Yeah.
equally like fixed and cardinal. So
For
anyway,
sure.
we'll talk about
We'll
it on the
talk about
next
that next time. For
podcast.
sure. For sure. For sure. Yeah.
But my last question for you, you can pull from your chart or not, but
Okay.
what's your unfair advantage? What do you do better
Ooh.
than anyone else that like you're just fucking rock at that thing?
That is such a cool question. I would say the way that I'm able to synthesize large amounts of information
Mhm.
is something that I have really like profoundly considered a gift. And then not only
Yeah.
like synthesize that information, but then be able to communicate it in a way that feels clear and resonant and digestible for people. Because this is complex information. It's nuanced, it's
Yeah.
esoteric, it's spiritual, it's especially if somebody's new to all of this information. I've found that to be something that I really rely on and that I really love. Um and you mentioned voice earlier, something that I want to keep leaning into, which is more speaking and more public teaching and more podcasts and
Yeah.
all of that stuff. So yeah, I'd
Heck
say that.
yes. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. Well, you
Yeah.
always have a home here. We
Ah,
obviously have
thank
many more
you.
things to chat about,
Yes. Oh my
but
God, please. Yeah.
this was so special, and I loved all your answers to all of my questions. I loved you asking me questions. The fact that we got to have a 3420
I
energy
know.
response
God, I
conversation
want to
was
ask
so
you
cool.
so many more questions too. So maybe we'll
I
do an
know.
episode where I interview you for half the time.
Perfect.
Yeah, so
That would be so what a treat. I feel
oh please.
yeah,
Yeah.
taken care of. Yeah, I'm so grateful and I'm so glad that we finally got to connect after sort of like being in each other's world for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I want other people to be in your world. So
Thank you.
give us your handle and all your information
Yeah.
and what's open right now. How can people
Yeah,
find you and work with you?
absolutely. I'm primarily just on Instagram right now. My handle is at the Unlock Method. I have my booking link in there where it just has more information about what I do, my most up to date calendar and availability. I just opened up some new availability in my schedule. Like I've been able to add an extra session, a couple extra sessions per week. So there's not too long of a wait right now to be able to book a session. So definitely reach out
Woohoo!
and get in touch. And yeah, also my email is just theunlockmethod@gmail.com if you want to email me. And yeah, we can always set something up. I do have an option for a 10-minute call, check-in call. I always like connecting with people beforehand. So yeah, I just love talking to people and connecting. So reach out. Yeah.
Heck yeah, like a good 44. We love to
Yeah.
see it. Amazing.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Eric, thank you so much. We will chat again soon. And
Ah,
yeah, the people go say hi. Go say hi to Eric. Go give him a follow.
come say hi. Super friendly. And truly thank you so much for having me on. Like it's so special, and the knowledge that you have and the work that you do is like incredible to see. So I'm so happy to be a part of it and have this conversation. So thank you.
Thank you. Oh, so
Yeah.
fun. All right. For the next time.
Yes.
Until next time.
Okay. Sounds good.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Amazing. Thanks so much to Eric for coming on the podcast. That was so much fun. As you can tell, we had a great time on this episode, so I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And clearly, Eric and I have a lot more to chat about, so you'll probably see him again on the podcast, probably sooner rather than later, and DM us and let us know if you are excited about that. And also, if you have any questions for us, maybe we can answer them and chat through them. But thanks again for joining me on another episode of Shortcuts to Mastery, and I will see you on the next one. All right, my friend, thanks for joining me on another ride aboard the Shortcuts to Mastery spaceship. You can get started on your human design and Gene Keys journey with me today for free by going to mariahenning.com/chart, which is linked below. If you're a visuals lover as well as an audiophile, then definitely join the party over on Instagram at @ByMariaHenning for lots of fun and beautiful educational content. And to tag me in the stories with the episodes you listen to so I can repost you. And of course, if you're here, you know it totally rocks for podcasts to receive great ratings, so if you're feeling warm and fuzzy and want to share, I'd be eternally grateful. I can't wait to connect again. Thanks for being here, and until next time, here's to everything going easier, better, and faster than expected.